Okay, so in fact, we've been getting some mixed signals recently in terms of the data regarding novel coronavirus. Um, Now, just about 12 hours ago, I recorded some video content where I was optimistic about the declining growth rate, but China just reported about 15,000 new cases, which is almost a 33% increase in one day. And most of that is because I guess they changed their method of diagnosis to include pneumonia that is confirmed through a CT scan. I don't know about how they can distinguish that from pneumonia caused by other infections, but yeah, I don't know the details on that. But I will show you some of the content that I recorded earlier, what I was kind of thinking about roughly 12 hours ago before this came in. And then, in fact, yeah, we don't really know what to think about this new data point coming out of China. It's not just the number of infected, it's also the number of deaths that were added today, which is a bit confusing. 242, and the day before that was 97. So I need to look into this. People on Twitter are saying this, that the WHO sent people on the ground in China, and so maybe they changed the way they report things because they're being watched by the WHO all of a sudden. I don't know. I need to look into that. But it's awfully confusing why the number of deaths spiked upwards so quickly like that. So here's the content that I recorded earlier. So the spread of the coronavirus may be slowing down here. I remember that when it was at about 2,000 infected to 5,000 infected, etc., it was doubling about every 2 or 3 days. So let's look at the numbers here, and we'll focus on the doubling rate in infected. So 2,000 on the 16th, up to 4,000, a little more than 4,000 on the 18th. So you can see more than doubled in 2 days right there. That's pretty scary. And then so we're going to say about 5,000 to, when does it get to 10,000? On the 21st. So that's 18th to 21st, roughly 3 days to double there. So 21st, 10,000 to the 25th. So that's about 4 days to double. Then from 20K to 40K, it's the 25th to the 31st, roughly 6 days to double. So we've seen from 2 days slowing down to about 6 days in the doubling rate of infected. Now, that's if the numbers are to be believed, which I don't really believe the numbers. I don't think anyone does, for coming in from China. Also, they don't know how many people are infected because a lot of people, they can't test everyone, I think. If you look at how they're testing people from the cruise in Yokohama in Japan, they're pretty slow at testing everyone. I don't think they've tested everyone yet. Now, I think that they were intentionally slow because Japan wants to keep their numbers down. I don't know this for a fact, but my Japanese girlfriend told me that Japan sort of bribed the WHO with donations and asked them to not count those infected in the cruise ship towards Japan's numbers. They want to keep their numbers down for the Olympics. So I think Japan was intentionally being very slow to test people. That's just my opinion. An alternative explanation is that these tests take time. I don't know what it is. A level 4 laboratory is something that was being required. So a very high level of like countermeasures against viral spread of infections required in the laboratories that were being used to test samples. That was going on. Since then, the WHO relaxed the requirements a bit, I guess. But in any case, some people online are saying that it might cost $1,000 per test. I don't think we know exactly, and it must depend on the country as well. But so there's questions of the feasibility of testing, hundreds of thousands of people. You have to take into account also that there were many tested who came out negative, right? So we're talking about, testing hundreds of thousands of people. In China, maybe even, if they could, they would want to test maybe millions of people, but I think that's, not really feasible. So we have to suspect that these numbers are not really accurate. I want to look also at the number of deaths, the growth rate and the number of deaths, to see, how often that's doubling. In this chart, it's too difficult to look at. So I might make a separate video. I don't know. Some other stuff I wanted to talk about here. This is the WuhanVirus.com, by the way. So it says here that 160 million people in China will return to work next week. That's from 7 hours ago from CNN. So we've got to be a little worried about that. I mean, during the Chinese New Year, there's a lot of traveling going on as well. So we'll have to see, will this create a new wave of infections with a delay? So at first they were saying incubation period of 2 weeks. Then on Japanese TV, I saw they reduced it to like 10 days. But my understanding is the average incubation period is just a few days. And then if you look at incubation periods, sometimes they report a maximum incubation period, the maximum that's been recorded. For SARS, that was 2 weeks. For novel coronavirus, the biggest I've seen was 28 days that they said as a maximum incubation period. Then we have continued more cases on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, the one I was talking about in Yokohama. That's bringing the total there up to 174. So Japan's numbers are going to be pretty high because of that cruise ship here. So Japan, 202 now, it says. Then I just wanted to say that I have found this nice site that shows more data than I'd been looking at before. In a nice, easy to notice, easy to look at fashion. And that site, I don't know if you can see it down here, antri.io is the website. It's nice that it talks about data, or it shows data of outside China as well. So let's see here. I was looking at this data here from the last 24 hours, and we can click here and say inspect. So not that many new cases in the last 24 hours. If this data is correct, I think it's roughly accurate, but I'm not sure, to what degree it's accurate. I think that there's some API associated with the Johns Hopkins information that's coming out. I'm not sure, but I imagine they're all getting their information from the same source, these kinds of websites. Anyway, there's a lot of good information here in terms of it's visually easy to digest, and so I wanted to mention that. And I think it's going to be important to observe the number of new cases outside China. Of course, there's a huge spike from the Diamond Princess. So Japan is the top country outside of China, 203. Most of these are from the Diamond Princess. I think it's like 135 or something like that. So anyway, yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about these mixed signals, and I'm not sure what the deal is, and also to share this website, which I think is good. So thanks for watching. Bye.